Yo, so Michael. Yes, we went to check it out, people. This is directed by Antonio Fuqua, written by John Logan. It is produced by John Branca, along with Graham King, John McClane, right? It is executive produced by Ron Burkle, Antonio Fuqua, David B. Hasholter, Jackie Jackson, Jermaine Jackson, Latoya Jackson, Marlon Jackson, Prince Michael Jackson, Tito Jackson, Haley King, Sammy King, Karen Langford, Jordan Schur, and Lydia Silverman. Okay, so we have Dion Bebe on cinematography, Conrad Buff the Fourth, Tom Cross, John Ottman, and Harry Yoon edit the piece. Victoria Thomas was behind all the casting. Right, we have Barbara Ling on production design. Art direction is Ernie Avila, Jennifer Bash, Albert Cisneros, Keeves Magao, Jason Perrine, Gordon Stutz, and Eric Sundal. Okay, so yeah, they were all art direction. Set decoration, we have Jill Rowley December and Amy Wells. Right? Marcy Rogers was costume design wardrobe. Hair and makeup, we have Jessica Lou Allen, Kim Ayres, Dennis Bailey, Gina Banik, Cheyenne S. Banks, Cole Benson, Howard Berger, Roland Blancafleur, Kenneth Calhoun, Rebecca Lee Castro, Abby Lyle Clawson, Bill Corso, Dan Crawley, Raquel Dahan Goen, Victoria Del Castillo, Dane Christian Diego, Claire Doyle, Lauren Ernersdorf, Carla Farmer, Lily S. Frierson, Mark Garbioni, Joyce Gillard, Kaliani Goodwin, Conrad Hilton, Taurus Jerome, Dennis Lidlard, Randy Maverstrad, Mo Meinhardt, Bart Mixon, Terrell Millin, V. Neal, Christopher Allen Nelson, Christina Patterson, Jason Chandler Pertus, Jamie Richmond, Lindsay T. Rogers, Fania Rudstein, Robert Smithson, Stephen R. Susanana, Maisha Starks, Janetta Stowers, Crane Tenuta, Cale Thomas, and a host of others, right? There's a load of stunt performers. Our coordinators are Brian McLeet, as well as Chris O'Hara, right? So that then brings us to our cast, right? And playing Michael, the younger Michael we see at the start is played by Juliano Krue Valdi, and then Jaafar Jackson is the adult Michael. All right, the dad Joseph is played by Coleman Domingo, right? his wife Catherine, Michael's mum, played by Nia Long. Right, we had then got the brothers. Right, so the young Jermaine is played by Jayden Harville, and Jamal R. Henderson is the older Jermaine. Right, the younger Marlon is played by Jaylen Lyndon Hunter, and then Tre Horton is the older Marlon. Right, our young Tito is played by Judah Edwards, and then Rhyan Hill is older Tito. Right. Younger Jackie is played by Nathaniel Logan McIntyre, and Joseph David Jones is our older Jackie. Then we have got Latoya, played by Jessica Sula. Okay, Quincy Jones is played by Kendrick Sampson. Berry Gordy is played by Lorenz Tate. Right, Gladys Knight played by Liz Simon. Right, Kevin Shinick is Dick Clark. Right, Mike Myers is Walter Yennikotov. Okay, Don King is played by Dion Cole. We have John Branca, played by Miles Teller. Laura Harrier is Susan Da Paz. Right, we got Michael's bodyguard, Bill Bray, played by Keelan Darrell Jones. Who else should we bring up? John Rabb is a reporter. Who else do we have? The oncology nurse, played by Christine Fickett. Some of the kids we see in the hospital are played by Lincoln Bowden, Jasper Irvin, August Dantus, Jack McSherry. Misha Savoy is an animal handler. Nurse Bernadette, played by Angela Elaine Gibbs. Right, Albie Seasonik is the plastic surgeon. Those are probably our main cast, right? Yeah, I'd say they're our main cast. Janet doesn't show up at all, which is an interesting one. Right, but the gist of the movie, the story of King of Pop Michael Jackson, from his childhood of being the star of the Jackson 5 through times of abuse by his father Joe Jackson, to his hit thriller and the purchase of Neverland Valley, into his tragic and unsuspected death on... Yeah, no, that is not... that is by no means at all what this film is. That is a very weird synopsis. Okay, let's go with this one on the Michael website, right? It says, Michael is a cinematic portrayal of the life and legacy of one of the most influential artists the world has ever known. The film tells the story of Michael Jackson's life beyond the music, tracing his journey from the discovery of his extraordinary talent as the lead of the Jackson 5 to the visionary artist whose creative ambition fueled a relentless pursuit to become the biggest entertainer in the world, highlighting both his life off stage and some of the most iconic performances from his early solo career. The film gives audiences a front row seat to Michael Jackson as never before. This is where his story begins. So yes, that's more to what it is, right? But I guess that is more of an aspiration, right, than what we probably ended up with. Because, yes, I don't think the film, I don't think it is that definitive piece. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain biographies where you're just like, oh man, that just gave us everything, right? That was it. Man, they really, they went through everything, right? That's not this film. And in essence, you could do a second film, right? But I don't think it would work, you know? And that's because of what we get in the first film. Now, the first film, right? This, production-wise, man, production-wise, they killed it. This looks really good, man. Right? It really does. You know? The way, because you remember, this is the 70s, 80s, right? That we're dealing with here. And, man, they were able to kind of get that look, right? Especially that glam, you know, glitter everywhere and, you know, rhinestones and just big, flashy, right? They've got that down, you know? And just being able to, right, recreate those sets, you know, those, the stage setups and everything, and just getting it looking on point. They did that. You know, they found a cast that looked pretty similar to everyone. Though, I mean, I don't know what his mum and dad looked like. You know what I mean? But you see the other Jacksons and all of that, and especially from that time, you know, they definitely do look the part, mostly, right? And that's the thing, you know, just all of these things. It is very weird hearing Jaafar talk, you know, it is weird, like, because you're just like, man, I haven't heard, like, just with this, I have not heard Michael, like, any interviews that talking for years. So just hearing this, you're just like, yo, jeez, okay. Now, it does get a bit more performative as the film goes on. Right? Now, I don't know if that's because of the dialogue or if it's just, you know, just one of those things that, like, when you first hear it, you're like, oh, that's pretty. But then the more you hear it, it's like, okay, we can tell it's not the thing. But, you know, they took a very good swing at it, right? So all of those aspects of the film were handled very well. They really were. You know, it's the substance of the film where we kind of just, because, yeah, it covers those early days, the Jackson 5 and all of that, right? Working with Gordy, working with Quincy, just all of those things, that's there. And in parts, Joe Jackson's portrayal is done well, you know? But like everything else, it's surface level, you know? Because we know he was abusive. We know this shit, right? And I think as the years went by, you kind of picked up other stuff, right? That you're just like, jeez, man, that was rough, you know? Like, there's even been talk, and I think there's there were doctors' examinations that kind of backed it up, but he was chemically castrated, which is kind of in part why he had the high voice. You know what I mean? Right? Because Joe wanted that sound, right? And it makes sense if that happened, because you know how manipulative and controlling Joe was, right? But that's not here, you know? And just, they have him kind of getting in Michael's face, right? We have him trying to talk over and down to, but there's no physical, right? That's it, right? Him looming is the extent of kind of, you know what I mean, kind of showing Joe's a bit of a shit, right? Now, there are certain confrontations, right, with Berry Gordy, right? Those interactions, you can see that Joe is trying to control things, right? He's trying to control the production. Berry shuts that down. And then he's trying to control the relationship with Michael and Berry, right? Doesn't want that being formed, doesn't want that closeness. And we can see him doing certain things to stunt. So we see that. And expressively, Coleman does a great job of showing, like, ooh, that anger, right? That, oh, you fucker. You know what I mean? Like, you made a decision behind my back. Or, you know, where Berry is just like, Michael, you can talk to me anytime you want. And you can see in, like, Coleman just captures that look in Joe's eyes, like, fucking piece of shit. Alright, you want to try this game? I don't think I've forgotten this. You know what I mean? We see those looks, and he really nails those, right? Really nails those. But yeah, the fact that that's all they wanted to really show, when we know there was more, is kind of odd, right? And it's always baffling when they do those kind of things, because you're just like, wait, all you have to do is some research and we know there was more, right? So who are you serving by watering this down, right? Like, when everyone knows there can't be any legal, you'd think there can't be any legal thing where you can't show the extent of what it was if it's, you know, out there, right? If everyone knows, then, you know, right? So I think that aspect of things, you know, not really going into Joe's control and narcissism, it's a weird one, because it then, you know what I mean, you want to back up, and it gives you that emotional journey, right? When you can see, oh, that's why he wants to break away. That's why he wants to go solo, right? That's why. That's the thing that's driving Michael's decisions for these things, right? That is why Never Neverland, right? Because it's all that. It is the stunted childhood that caused that degradation of, like, adult maturity. But we're not showing it. So you just have Michael going, I want to go on my own. He can't control me anymore. And you're just like, I mean, we kind of see it, but we don't see it. You know what I mean? Like, huh. So, yeah, that side of things, it's a weird decision, you know? It's a really weird decision. It's, the film does feel a bit, style over substance, because then everything else is mad neat, right? Like, he sees a news story about the Bloods and the Crips, and then he calls the Bloods and the Crips together. And these are things that we know happen, right? It's not like, oh, these things didn't happen. No, all of these things that we see happened, right? But the way they show it, it's just super neat, right? Now, you're telling me you've got Bloods and Crips in a room and there's no trouble? Right? There's no fights. It's all, everyone's just like, hey, we're here, it's fine, blah, blah, blah. Right? There's gonna be. Just because, right? It's just, you get a whole heap of people in a room and there will be some, you know what I mean? Because it's just the nature, like having so many people together causes friction, let alone if it's two rival gangs that, don't get along and it's arms on sight, right? So it's just, you're watering down these moments, right? And it makes the moment more if yes, there was friction. It was a little, but hey, the music and Michael was able to settle all of that shit down. You know what I mean? It makes it more by showing the reality of it. So you do scratch your head at like, why did we water this down? You know what I mean? It's even, the moment where he names the Thriller album, right? It's, a horror came on. Hold on a minute. Dum, dum, dum. And you're thinking, hey, I don't doubt that it came possibly from a love of horror films. But I imagine there was more to it than that. Right? Because, yes, he didn't want to call it his name, right? He didn't want to call it Michael Jackson. So you go, okay. But then you're going to be working out potential other names, right? It's not that, this is it. It's going to be like, well, why don't we call it blah, blah, blah? Or, it could be this, right? And then you're just like, no, they don't work. Thriller, right? Like, there's more of a journey to a lot of the outcomes that we see. But for whatever reason, they do not want to show the journey. So, yeah, all of that is weird. We don't get a time frame, really, from the hair accident to then going on tour, right? We don't really get a time frame on that. How was it? Weeks, months? Like, what was it? Like, and even the fact that he was then on mad drugs after that, right? And this is what we learn, right? That accident and the damage then caused the need for drugs. The fact, which then led into the whole kind of death because he couldn't sleep. So then it gets to a point where he's getting someone fucking putting him under at night, right? So all of these weird things. Even, right, there's a bit where he's, talking to his, was it his rat, or was he talking to something? I think it was talking to a rat, and someone's just like, stop messing with your pets. And he's like, they're not my pets, they're my family. And you're like, okay, let's explore that. But we don't explore that. And that's another big component on who he is, right? Like the need for all of these animals. Because he is close to his brothers. It's just his dad that was the main issue, right? So you have a family, but what's the thinking you don't have a family? Like, what is this? Let's explore it. And we don't explore it, right? And this is the big thing, because we see him looking at Peter Pan book, right? Never Neverland. We know he then bought a big piece of land, called it Never Neverland, and built a theme park up on it, right? And mad other things. We know all of this, but again, not explored. You know? So what we have here in this movie, it is impressive, right? It's impressive. There is definitely no there's no turning your nose up on that, right? They have put together something crazy here. You know, it's just over 2 hours. But we do not get deep on anything. Nothing. Right? The relationships and all of that, right? Why not work with Goldie on the first album? Like, you know, all of these things. There's no fault to them. And that's a real shame, because Michael Jackson was crazy complex, right? Just all the different things, right? The fact that, I mean, you just go into later life, you know, the whole child situation, and you're just like, there's, all the kids were, I mean, they were all test tubes. You know what I mean? Like, were they even, is his DNA in any of them? I don't even know, right? It all gets mad crazy and odd and weird and bizarre. But all of that is tied into that crazy childhood. But for whatever reason, none of that is here. So we get a very polished film. We do. You know what I mean? It's slick as fuck. It's put together well. Right? All of that. But we have something that it's candy floss. Right? It's candy floss. Those first few tastes of candy floss, you're like, oh man, this is crazy. But then after a while, you're just like, I mean, it's just, okay, it's just sugar. Right? And you might have this big old bit of candy, but it's not filling. It's not sustaining you. It just dissolves in your mouth. It's done. And that's the film. Right, you look at it, you're impressed by it, right? The getting that whole choreography, the look, and just all of these aspects of the things. You're like, yo, that's crazy, man. They redid all of this stuff. Whoa. But where is the heart of it? Where is that? Right, there's a part in the film and he's talking to the label and he's just like, why? I'm not doing that. I'm a proud black man. But again, we know that got mad complicated because he lightened his skin. Now, they mention vitiligo in it, right? Which is, like, there is one bit, like, so he pulls back his sleeve and he's like, look, my skin, you know, the cream helps lighten it all up and blend it all together. And you're like, okay. But then when he's in the pool, Where's the vitiligo? You're in the pool. Cream, especially you think in the 80s, cream just washed off in water. So where's the vitiligo when he's in the pool? You feel me? Right? We're not exploring that whole thing, right? Changing your nose. Being like, oh, I don't like my black nose. Right? So making it more Caucasian. All of these things, right? This all speaks to that complication that he had with who he is, right? What he looks like, his perception, all of these things, right? There is so much stuff to explore, and we explore none of it. So, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, right? Hey, I'm sure I'm sure people will look at this and love it, right? I think it definitely depends on, did you grow up in that era, right? I think anyone that grew up in that era, and so you watched the rise and fall of Michael Jackson. You were there when he was bigger than the Beatles, right? Bigger than Jesus, right? When it was that, right? Just watching all of those girls going crazy for Michael is hilarious, right? It's like when you see them going crazy for people like George Michael, and you're just like, yo, girls, you understand these dudes don't want you, right? But anyone that saw all of that firsthand, they're gonna watch this film and go, yo, but where was wait, they don't talk about what? But if, you're this current generation who don't seem to dig in the crates, right? Who don't really care about what came before, I think they could sit down and watch this and be like, oh man, that's great. That's really interesting. So I think it depends how you come at this, right? How do you connect with Michael Jackson will possibly be how you receive the film. But it's out now in cinemas, fam. We've been hearing about this film for the last, I don't know, like, 6-7 years or so. So yeah, it's finally out. So yeah, people, you can go and make up your own mind. Is Michael a hit, or is Michael, a bit like any of the solo career of the others, right? Kind of fizzles out, right? That's the thing. So yeah, you decide. Let me know what you think, people. Are you on the side of myself, right? Is this more style over substance, or were you feeling it? Okay? Michael.